I'm Andy Erwin, and this is the Storytellers. Coming up on today's edition of the Storytellers, we have a married couple. We've never had a married couple on the show before, but this couple, they're both actors and producers, and they have a powerful voice. They're believers, and they're really, I think God's really put something spectacular on both of their hearts to kind of tell stories for a purpose and find their redemptive cause. They both have had a great following with different shows they've been on and movies. You know them from TV shows like The Walking Dead. Also, as a resident Trekkie, I'm pretty excited that one of them is the star of Star Trek Discovery. So I probably just gave it away. But would you welcome my guest today, Kenric Green and Sonequa Martin Green. Guys, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on the Storytellers.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And we're honored to be the first married couple.
I know. It's pretty cool.
It is. We're so happy.
It was it was cool when I first walked in and I met you guys for the first time. We were just down talking about it. It felt like family. It was like, that's fam.
Did.
And I was like, first thing I said was like, Sonequa, you're from my home area. I was like Russellville, Alabama in the house.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
It's hard to find people, or at least it doesn't happen to me very often, where I find somebody like from my actual area, or not. I mean, I know you're not from Russellville, but from Alabama in general. It's like, what? And we're both here in Hollywood together. That's crazy.
Well, when we got together that time, it was like, so y'all's agent Andrew Rogers at IAG. Is a fellow believer, and with Andrew, he's been an encouragement to my career over the years. We've just have been kind of brothers in Christ that have just encouraged each other behind the scenes. And I just with him, I have a policy that anytime somebody comes on to y'all's roster that is a believer, that is highly talented, that I need to know, I was like, you don't even have to ask me to book the meeting. You have control of my calendar. Just book it. And so he came in one day. He's like, dude, you've got to meet, Kenric and Sonequa. And I was like, do it. And I was a fan of y'all's work for The Walking Dead. And then, of course, I'm a closet Trekkie. I don't know if I told you that in the room. I was trying to be cool. But, I was like, yeah. But when we got together and walked in, it was just the connection spiritually was just really profound. Like for you guys, just talk a little bit about just who you guys are as far as believers, and then what it's like when you find somebody in the industry that is talented but shares our faith.
Oh man,
take it away, baby.
Okay, well,
preach.
I know, right? I'll start it off. You finish up. It is, man. So where should I start? Who we are. So that is an ongoing, evolving, experience of learning who we are as people, and then who we are more specifically in this industry. And even in this past year, and I know Sonequa can attest, there's been a lot of growth, a lot of development that we've gone through in all facets of life. And so we're so grateful. One, to Andrew, you brought him up. He is our brother, and we love him and his wife, Yulara. And the opportunity to first come under the same roof from an agent actor relationship for Sonequa and I, and be able to have that connection spiritually with someone on the agent side, to be able to speak, a shorthand with, because it's not just about getting any job or trying to make money or raising a profile. It's like, we're doing this for a bigger reason than that. And so to be able to have that relationship and speak to him on that level is invaluable, and something that we've always desired as we've kind of gone through this industry, but we weren't quite sure if it would ever work out like this. So this is the ideal.
Yeah.
And then let's see, for us as a married couple working together in this industry as believers, it's tricky. It's tricky. It's fun, but it's tricky because there's a lot there's a lot of pitfalls, a lot of things that you have to avoid. And so us being able to share in that journey, to be able to speak to each other, support each other, pray for one another, is
Yeah.
it's everything. I don't know that I'd be able to do it without her.
Oh,
You
yeah,
Yeah.
know,
ditto,
Yeah.
yeah.
ditto. I also
That
feel like I have to say, just meeting you was quite a pivotal moment for us, to be honest with you. And you did play it cool, by the way, because I did not know you were a Trekkie. That's fantastic. I had no idea. Um,
it's
but
like I was
well
like,
done on that.
it was like Commander Burmington. It's like what? Yeah,
I
okay,
love
yeah,
it. Oh, I appreciate you. But I think, like, it's this evolution that that Kendrick was just talking about, that we've gone through, even just in the last year and some change, has been, we can't express how profound it's been. And coming out of this last season that we were in the industry, it very much feels like we're
yep,
turning the page, going into a new season, a new chapter of who we are as believers in this industry, and how we do it, like Henrik was saying, to be brutally honest. And we know that we can be honest with you, because
yeah,
that familial connection is already there. It's like it is tricky, and it's a dream come true, because now here we are understanding that we can really spread the gospel of grace, and we can really fulfill the will of
yep,
the Most High. We can really, create heaven everywhere that we go in this industry. And we knowing that we can do it, and seeing it already begin to manifest, with us launching our production company and meeting people like you. It is such a dream come true. And so now we're like, all right, God, and now what?
Right.
it's
Right.
like, and one more thing, like
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. Like it's just, I think the thing that is exciting is, like you said, there's something in the wind right now, where like before this point, as believers, I think we had to kind of be a little bit more hidden and subversive, and kind of maybe edit out part of who we
Oh yeah.
were professionally to kind of keep doing what we do, and then look for our moments. But I don't know what it is that's changed, but in the past year specifically, all of a sudden, we're finding each other,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, you're like me. And some came from the outside, in, and were people of faith that kind of found their way in the industry. Other people were, mainstream and doing their thing, and then all of a sudden saying, oh, I have a voice, and I can be both. And you know I think it's an exciting time. So when we go into a room like that, it's like it emboldens you to be
Hmm.
like, okay, I got a voice, and I don't have to
Yes.
apologize for who I am.
Right.
Yes. And I have brothers and sisters to link arms with. It's
Yes.
like we're
Hmm.
not doing it alone. Like we have the blessing and the privilege of having each other. But it's like, wow,
Mhm.
we have a unit. We have an extended family. It's like we can all do this together.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
something I really
Yeah.
love that you say, Andy, you've said to us a few times, like rooting for you, in your corner.
Yep.
And that's been really encouraging for me personally, because it's like getting out here, like you said, a change in the air, getting out here, not having to be so subversive with what we truly believe and
Yep.
how we deal with people. Um, is something I'm stepping into and growing in, even myself, because I'd gotten so used to playing the game, speaking in a certain way where I can be encouraging. Maybe it's Jesus, maybe you don't, but hey, I know it's coming from love, and hopefully you get it. It's like now being able to come to the forefront and be forward facing with our faith, speak to people who may not share our beliefs, but say like, hey, this is where we're coming from. These are the things that we want to do, what we believe in. These certain things we're not so interested
Yeah.
in doing. Hopefully that doesn't offend you, but if it does, you'll sort it out where, we know where we're coming from. And so it's,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's been great to have you in that way,
Well,
because to be encouraged,
well, and likewise, it's refreshing to me to see the energy you guys are bringing in with just the fresh ideas, and again, I think the couple thing is fascinating, because you're both super talented in your own right, but just to see kind of the power for you guys to link arms as a couple that are believers, that's exciting. I didn't mean, I feel like I was in that room that day to unite, but I caused a little bit of division because my love language is a hat. Like my hats, or that's my thing. That's my thing. And
Yes.
so I walked in the room and I have these Gordon Brothers hats that I wear that are like, have an animal on it, have like a hidden message. And I had one that was a lion that said king on it.
Yes.
And Kenric, you just gravitated right towards you, like, oh, your hat, it's hot.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh. So I sent this beautiful care package and I sent it to you guys.
Mhm.
And I said it. And then what happened to the hat, dude?
Well, if you'll notice the thank you video from my lovely wife, she's wearing it, and it's like, dang it, baby, you're better looking than I am in the hat, and it's
Yes.
not fair because it's supposed to be mine.
Yes,
Yo,
for those of us that are hair challenged, a hat is our hair.
Yeah,
It's our crowning glory.
exactly.
yo,
But
I took
it
it.
looked really good on Sonequa.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I took it. I'm just going to admit that I took it. I did. I did steal it, and I said, "This is mine now." And I think the first time I asked, and then after that
And
I
you
did
look
it.
good in it.
Thank you. And then after that I didn't ask
Yeah.
anymore. But then he got me one.
It's true because I was like, I want to wear my gift, so
Yeah.
let me give you your own.
I love it. I love it. That's great. We got our own pride going.
Now we wear it
So,
together.
I'm glad that it did not permanently cause a rift in this beautiful relationship
No,
for
but it
y'all.
did. It developed our faith. Forgiveness is important.
I love it. I love
Stealing
it.
is wrong.
That's awesome. Dude, I got such a kick out of it because I got the video from you, Sonequa, and you've got it on. I'm like, she stole the hat, but dang, she looks good in it.
Right. So it's like now I look like a hater for wanting to wear my own hat. Like, that's
Oh my
not right.
gosh.
That's not
Oh my
right.
Dude. Let's back it up a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about y'all's journey, and I'll kind of ping pong back and forth. But for you, Sonequa, like I know that you wanted to be a psychologist growing up, right? And then somewhere in high school, you found acting in Alabama,
Yeah.
and I think that connected with me just because, like, I know how outside the box that was from where we come from.
Mm.
So, like, you go from wanting to be a psychologist, which is probably very helpful to be an
Oh
actor,
yeah.
but like, and then you found this love of acting. Like, what was the initial reaction back home when you're like, "This is what I want to do"?
Oh, people thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy.
Me too.
Yes, because I actually I didn't want to be a psychologist until I was sort of in high school. Because I didn't really know when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to be a computer programmer just because I thought computers were interesting. And then I realized when I was around 14, like, oh no, that's not what I want. And so I decided around 14 or 15 that I wanted to be a psychologist. But then right around the time I made that decision, I auditioned for a play and it wasn't going to be shown to the school. And so I was like, "Oh, that should be fun. Why not?" And my friends won't get to see it in case it's terrible. And then I got the lead in it, and it was at rehearsal one day that the knowledge, and I've had the I love telling this story. I've told this story many times, but it really is quite miraculous because the knowledge of it came down on my head. Like I felt it, and people might think, people will think that I'm crazy that don't understand this,
Let
but
them think
like
what they want.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it literally felt like cool water, like coming down my head,
Wow.
like the knowledge, like this is what
Wow.
you're supposed to do with your life. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm supposed to
Wow.
be an actor. Oh my goodness. And so my family was like, "You say what?" you know, what?
You see the panic
Yeah.
as the cool water's coming down on you from the peace of God. You see the panic growing on your parents,
Exactly.
on your family's face.
They're
It's
like,
like,
"What are you talking about?" Because I was
yeah,
salutatorian of my class, and they were like, "What? That's the
right.
dumbest thing you could ever do." And I was like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. This is what I got to do. This is what I'm supposed to do." So I sort of found, the Holy Spirit was leading me the whole way. I was just like an engine, like going forward. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. I auditioned for the theater department at to get a scholarship at the University of Alabama. That I was accepted, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, because I didn't know I had no blueprint, which you know very well. Both of you know very well
Yeah.
when you don't have a blueprint for it because baby, you had a similar experience. Um
Oh yeah.
and and it makes perfect sense. It comes from love, it comes from protection. It comes from like, wait, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about where you're going. So how can I don't know if you're gonna be safe. I don't know if you're gonna be successful. It's like I totally understand. And so it's so lovely when you get out there and you
Mm.
are fulfilling the will of God for your life. And so things are going well. And then they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, see?
Yeah. No.
I
But
told you.
that is what you said. I mean, it's prophetic. You saw it in advance, and, like, nobody else saw the vision that you saw.
Yeah.
It's kinda like, you kinda gotta know who you are before anybody else discovers it, and that's
Mhm.
always, like, kind of a walk of faith, being
Ooh.
like, I think I'm supposed to be more." But,
Ooh.
yeah, wait, for you, Kenric, like, similar journey for you?
Yeah, it was. I played basketball growing up until like middle
Okay.
junior year of high school. I quit suddenly, which is a whole other story. But I know my dad was really disappointed. I wasn't playing for my dad, but he really enjoyed it, right? And so I was just a regular
Yeah.
kid. And just before graduating high school, still my best friend to this day, he was like, "Yo, we should do this play. There's suits, there's girls, there's this." And I was like, "All right,
You're like,
I'll
bet.
try it." You know,
You're like, "Hey,
as it turns out, it
suits,
was
girls,
a
good, yeah."
production of Guys and Dolls, and
It's so
so.
That's a hard right turn,
Oh
bro.
yeah, you know.
That's a hard right
Yeah,
turn.
I come in,
Yeah,
the
like
refining fire of musicals. Um,
yeah.
and so I I had a little small part, little bit role, played this guy. It was just like I had a couple scenes, spoken one of them. And I remember it was over Mother's Day weekend. This man I'd never met, he came up to me and he was like, "Out of all the people I saw up there, you're the actor." And the
Wow.
impact of
That's
that
validating.
didn't really like it really didn't hit me right away, but his words stuck with me. And after quitting basketball, I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. And so I went to junior college. I was like, well, let me go do an acting class and see what this whole thing's about. And then over the next 3 years at a 2 year college, I just, I became a very big fish in a tiny puddle. So I went to New York, went to AMDA, American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and yeah, went hard in my training there and theater and then
Huh.
started pursuing theater from there in New York.
That's incredible. It's and you guys, all your roads converged in New Jersey, right?
Mhm.
Like, you're doing a play,
Yep.
Mhm.
and I've heard it said, Sonequa, that it's one of the favorite, plays that you've been a part
Oh,
of,
yeah.
was that one, and you guys found each other on the stage, which is, like, the most romantic way an actor couple can meet, but, like, so what was it that caught your eye with each other, and then when it's like, "Oh, I think we're called to do this together."
Oh.
Mm, that's the
And that
story.
was a slow pitch softball to you, Kenric, so,
Right, right. Don't strike out.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
no, so for me, it's interesting. Like I wasn't a believer when we met, and it was a
Huh,
small cast. There's only seven of us. Only three out of the seven were under the age of 50 at the time. And
huh.
so we're in Princeton. It's winter time. It's cold. There's not much to do in between, in between scenes where we're rehearsing, whatever. So as time went on and I got to know Sonequa and I was paying more attention, I'm like, this is, I think I kind of like her, or whatever. And
Mhm.
I'm being my worldly self, just kind of being me, right? That's
Yeah,
and she's.
yeah.
I come to find out that she's a believer, but she was the first believer that I'd met. I didn't even have those terms at the time, but she was the first Christian that I'd met that
Huh.
made Jesus attractive to me in a way.
Wow.
Outside of a couple of family
Way to go,
members,
girl.
and I was like, "Whoa, what is this about?" But once I let my interest be known, she she wasn't she didn't just like catch that pitch right away.
Mm.
She had some reservations.
She she's
you know
fierce. She's
and
fierce.
so I after knowing that, I determined that the rest of the run of this play, I'm going to continue to shoot my shot and give it everything I have.
Yeah. It's really
It worked.
it's really profound because I graduated from UA with my theater degree, and then I moved straight to New York as well, and I was doing a small like theater. I was auditioning. I was, doing the thing, doing the grind. But it was such an amazing opportunity. It was such Willpower wrote the play, and what a great character Sanji Clay.
Yeah.
This was the first time I played someone who really lived. And so when he's talking about approaching me and sort of starting that courting process, that I had sort of said to myself, the mantra that I was living by at the time was like, I'm not dating anymore. Like I had
Yeah.
had experiences in college. I had done all that. I'm like, you know what? I'm serious
Yep.
about God
Mhm.
now. I have found Him for myself, even though I grew up in the church. It's like I have found the relationship apart from the religion, apart from the traditions of men, kind of. And so I said, look, Jesus is my husband and my career is my child. So I'm not going to be out here
Ah.
dating anymore. Like I'm not doing that. And so when he when he made himself known, when he made his, uh his attraction to me known, I was like, man, I would love that, but I know that you're in the world, and that's okay. But that's dangerous for me. Like I can't, like I've
Mm.
done it before. It does not work. I have no interest in being unequally yoked, in that way.
Yeah.
And so over the course of our courtship, which was such a tumultuous journey, it's like Shakespearean in the drama of it, right? Like we got to tell it on Black Love. It was such a
Yeah.
circuitous path, and like it was like full of like and pushing and pulling and
Right.
tears and trauma and like but I remember, I still to this day, it's miraculous. It's such a miracle to see what God did with him, because over the course of our courtship, he found God,
Wow.
and
Mhm.
through once we realized that we did need to be together, and it's just that it was a matter of timing, he just like rocketed, like boom, saved, baptized, pa, 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 pa,
That's cool.
Yeah.
like so fast. It was a transcendent journey to witness. I'm still so grateful for watching it, even though it feels like eons ago, like another life. But
Just
yeah.
just for those listening, I didn't find Christ so I could be with my wife. To be
Of
clear,
course.
like
Yeah.
the way
Yes.
things
Yeah.
the way things happened, it was really amazing the way God worked in that situation, because it had gotten to a point where, because I really am trying, because we knew that if we ever actually were able to get together, that would be it. We would be married, and
Yeah.
and the rest is
Yep.
history. But it was
Yep.
the issue of, a difference of faith, a difference of belief. And I didn't I knew that it's like me just trying to like accept Jesus so that I could be with her or whatever. It's like that's not going to last. That's not going to work. But as we kept going, I actually grew a respect for her faith
Hmm.
before I found my
That's cool.
own, to the point where I was willing to say like, look, I know what I want. I know why I want it, but I understand that this is a big hang up for you because, God is in between us. And if somehow I were to convince you to be with me in spite of where you believe God is leading you, that's going to end in ruin, even though I don't
Hmm.
necessarily share that belief right away. But through that, I was able to kind of build my own relationship with him separate from her.
Hmm.
And things started to kind of align where we could walk together in it. And, everything started to just kind of coalesce in that way. It was amazing. I still am
Man.
like, whoa.
I know. Me
Well,
too.
I mean, I just love the testimony of that. I think that there's something powerful about somebody's real life experience and their true story. I think it's what the Bible talks about, that they overcame the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony. And there's just something powerful about what you've lived and what you know to be true.
Mm.
And for the two of you guys, there's a lot of people I meet in the industry that, yeah, they're people of faith or whatever, but it's just, but you guys fiercely really believe it.
Yeah.
And it's very authentic for both of you guys. I think, Sonequa, you have a definite fierceness to you that you just, you really don't mind standing out. And I think that that's something awesome. And I think, for Kenric, you're a thinker and you always are very thoughtful about what you kind of embrace and you want to kind of understand. And I think the two of those things together make a really powerful, formula for who you guys are. And so that's why I think God's really given you a voice. And I want to get into that in a minute. For y'all though, like kind of stepping into the industry, you're doing plays and doing theater. You're up in New York. You guys find each other, you get married. That transition into doing television and eventually film and those type things, was that hard for you guys? And then specifically for you, Sonequa, I just think for me, I don't know if you felt any of this on your side, but just where I came from sometimes got prejudged,
Oh yeah.
you know? And I used to, like, when I would first starting as a filmmaker, and it's not that way as much anymore, but when I first started as a filmmaker, I would go to these meetings with film executives, and they would be talking to me about, like what we do and all that type thing. And as soon as they were like, "Where are you from?"
Mhm.
Then I'd be like, "Birmingham, Alabama," and they would get like a fake phone call, like, "Oh, I got
Oh.
to get this," and they'd walk off.
I actually had developed a little bit of it created a chip on my shoulder because
Yep, me too.
yes, because I felt like I was less than or inferior, of course. And just in recent years, this is just like a quick digression. In recent years, I've brought it back in a little bit because it's like, well, look.
Yep, me too.
So it's like there's something to be embraced and there's something to be grateful for with that. And so it's like if you hear it come out, then it's gonna come out and it's gonna be all right, you know?
Right.
It's gonna be all right,
Mhm.
you know. Um,
Dude.
but I didn't realize, when I got to New York, I was always planning on doing film, but I got into TV pretty quickly and then ended up being in TV for a little over a decade and specifically in the sci-fi genre. I never imagined that that would happen. And
Mm.
and I think the same is true for you, right, baby, that you just didn't imagine where your path was going to be. But it
No,
went
not at all.
from yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you guys end up on The Walking Dead, in the cast together? That was pretty wild for you guys to be on that show at the same time.
Yeah, it really was, and especially for me, like going to New York, studying theater, and I was really romanticized by the whole like theater culture and all of the actors I
Right.
admired. They studied in theater, so I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I want to be a part of that. And I remember there was a point in my life where I was like, I'm gonna just dedicate my life to theater because I was just so, I was sold on it. And then it was actually meeting her during our play where she had already started doing some episodes of The Good Wife. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't even remember how it came up, but I think I found out like what she made to do one episode of TV. And I think
You're
that
like,
was more
"Forget
than my
theater."
whole theater career. And I was
The
like,
ideal went out. It's like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, we're
I
good.
think I
We're
need
good."
to expand. Yeah, you know. And
Yeah.
so it was really beautiful. Like as we kind of came together, the television and film world also opened up to me too, because it was like the first time I had a glimpse on the inside. Because all of my
Mhm.
friends and fellow actors that I was in contact with, everybody was theater for the most part,
Yeah.
And so that, yeah, fast forwarding to where we're both on Walking Dead and everything, was like, wow, well, that's that's a move of the Lord, like, because that wasn't even necessarily somewhere I wanted to go when I first started
Huh.
off, you know. But yeah, then it's funny. We've been on two different series together. We have yet to actually interact. So
Yeah.
we're still waiting on that milestone, but it is really amazing to be able to share
Well,
in
at
that.
least it gives you a common bond where you come home from work, like, "How was your day today, honey?" It's like, "Well, I got chased by a lot of dead people. How was your day?" "I got attacked by this rotting corpse." "Okay, good. Similar days."
Well, here was the
Absolutely.
added challenge for me because she was on there before I was, right? And so she's already
Right.
accustomed to the heat, to the conditions you got to work on that show, and she did a
Yep.
season pregnant. So then I come on
I
and
heard about that. Like, you had to layer up with, like, clothes and, like,
Oh yeah.
you
yeah,
had bigger
Hide
guns
behind
and
my M5.
yeah, and so
yeah,
it's
it's incredible.
like my second or third day shooting. I got my bald head. We're outside. We're shooting in a really rocky place, so the sun is bouncing off the rocks, and I'm literally like doubled over, like just getting used to this heat.
Like, go back to theater.
Yeah,
I wanna go back to
exactly. I'm
theater.
looking like Mr. Softy over here, and my wife is just like kicking it, like chatting in between takes. And I'm like,
Pregnant.
man, I'm struggling. I remember the director at the time, Greg, was like, hey, you can't let your wife show you up like this. I'm like, all right, Kenric, get it together. Get it together. Come on. Come on. You
That's
could do
so
this. She did
funny.
it already. She did it pregnant,
That's awesome.
Oh man,
That's
God is
awesome.
good. Yeah, it's wonderful because even on Discovery, he, I I'm
Yeah.
I was his namesake. He played my father. and we
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
interact.
I saw and that was incredible. It was just like,
Yeah,
that's a whole nother
that's a
level of
whole
different,
nother
Oh
but
yeah.
level.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
always
Yeah.
said it was the right amount of weird.
It was right. The thing I love about you, Sonequa, is, you really morph into a character. You disappear. Like, so when I first saw Discovery, having seen The Walking Dead, like I didn't make the jump or the connection because it was just you had created such an interesting, unique character. I'm like, who is this Sonequa? And then all of a sudden I realized the same. I was like, oh my gosh. So like for you, stepping into the Star Trek world was like, were you familiar with that universe before you stepped in, or did you have a lot of learning to
I
do?
had a lot. First of all, thank you. That's a really high compliment, especially coming from you. So thank you for that. And I did have a lot of learning to do, and I was overly ambitious. I thought I could just get it all in. I only had 2 or 3 weeks to prepare before we started. So I was just like, like trying
Yep.
to get it in, like playing it while I was sleeping and everything, just trying to soak up as much as I possibly could because I wasn't that familiar with the world, with the
Hmm.
franchise. And I had to hit the ground running. But thankfully I was able to grow along the way and learn as
Hmm.
I went. And it was also a good thing that I was bringing to life someone new. So I didn't have
Yeah.
Mhm.
to, um,
Yeah.
I needed to know things.
Imitate
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
exactly. I needed to know things for context, but we were our own thing. So I could also
Right.
build from the ground up with a bit of a clean slate as well.
For you guys as believers, like I've always been curious that there's something that happens that, because we all fight to kind of make it, and and I think that struggle to the top can be, motivating, where it kind of keeps you like as a mission.
Mhm.
But there's a part of the industry that once you kind of achieve a level of success, there is a bit of a letdown or of a futility. Like, why am I doing this? What's this for? Absolutely, it provides for my family financially. Absolutely, it's something that artistically, feeds a part of me. But like, what's the big purpose? And
Mhm.
was there ever a moment for you guys to hit that and to be like, to have to wrestle with, okay, we've had some level of success, but like, what are we going to do with this, and like, what's it for? What are we really
Oh
chasing?
yeah.
1000%.
It might have
It's
been our
like
breakfast conversation this morning. Yeah.
I mean, we that's where we live.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm gonna again. I mean, we've been honest this whole time, but it's like I'm gonna like confess that as an actor, it's a journey that you have to take because in the beginning, you're enchanted by all the things,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
especially
Mhm.
when you're super young, like both of us were.
You're like, I can't believe I'm in the room. I can't believe I'm around this, and this is incredible.
Absolutely. You know what I'm
Yeah.
Mhm.
saying?
Right.
It's
Right.
like you've got the like glitter dust and
Right.
you're brainwashed, you're indoctrinated to think that it's about this or it's about that. And all of it is
Mhm.
centered around self. It's all self-oriented and self-aggrandizing. And then mature beyond that, hopefully. In our situation, praise God, we were matured out of it by the work of the Holy Spirit where it went from that to, oh, okay, well now I could care less about fame. um and now I just want respect. Now I just want to be
Yeah.
good. I want which is essentially
Yep.
approval and or
Right.
validation or whatever. And then thankfully we were matured out of that. And then once
Right.
once that happened, especially with everything that we were sacrificing, right? It's like not to speak more highly of ourselves than we should, but there were so many challenges in our lives, trying to
Yeah.
navigate moving twice a year with our families, especially once we had both of our children in the mix, me working 80
Hmm.
hour 80-hour
Yep.
weeks, for months and months and months at a time, us trying to balance our marriage, our children, all of it. It's like, okay, well, none of that stuff matters anymore. I remember saying to you when we first met, it's like I want nothing Hollywood has to give. And so I personally went to the extreme. It was like, okay, well then I'm out. Like
Yeah.
why am I
Yeah.
here? There's no reason to be here. And thankfully, yet again, matured out of that. And so,
Yep.
yes, you're right that it's like, what are we doing this for if not for the most important thing?
Hmm.
Right.
Was there a turning point to where, because I've hit that point myself, and I think anybody that does something of substance has to hit that point where they're willing to kind of lay it down,
Yes,
and then all of a sudden it's given back to you with a completely different purpose.
that's right.
And so for you guys, was there a pivotal moment where you're like, I'm out? That what was it that led to the moment where you're like, I'm out? And what was the pivotal moment where you picked it back up and like, oh, I think God has it, he's not done with me yet?
For me, it hasn't been one moment. It's been this kind of like ebb and flow. Because even like I said, like before Sneak and I met, and when I decided to be an actor, I wasn't in the body at all. And so things like Entourage and what Hollywood had to offer was very enticing to me. And that was really what I discovered, was that was the driver for me. And so once I came into my own relationship with Christ, and married, and started understanding like what's more important than other things, and then being able to step into the industry, getting kind of an up close view of what Hollywood has to offer and see the other side of that coin, not just what comes
Yeah.
on, during the Oscars or the Golden Globes or whatever, and seeing the work and the toll that it takes on people. It's like, wow, like to see, it's like there was a point in my life where I thought that that's where I wanted to be. But now I'm like, oh no, that's not something to dream of. Like
Mm.
that's really invasive. You lose a piece of your life, when you come onto that. So then, as I'm continuing to go, it's like this slow kind of like falling away of self, and realizing more and more that it's like, okay,
Mm.
it's not about me. It's not about me. Oh, okay, I can do this for the Lord. I can do this for the Lord. And then getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm doing this to serve others. This is actually
Yeah.
a way of sacrifice for
Well
me,
said.
using what I've been given for the service of others.
That's exactly
So
right.
it's been this kind of like slow journey for me, and I know it happens differently for everybody, right? But that's been my experience.
That profoundly said. And I want to hear your point of view on that as well, Sonequa. I think, for me, there is that idea that where the sheen kind of wears off. I
Hmm.
remember I could see it a little bit more clearly in an industry I'm not a part of, and so like I got invited once to the Grammys, and was invited to one of the after parties after the Grammys, and I'm not in music, I'm not musical at all, and so it's a world that I didn't really care. I just was there because it's just like, yeah, it's fun.
Hmm.
But I went to this after party. It was a who's who of music, like everybody was there, and I just kind of, nobody cared who I was. Nobody knew who I was. So I just took a step back and I just watched people and people groups.
Mhm,
And all of a sudden it dawned on me. I was like, everybody in this room is as absolutely as insecure as I am.
mhm,
Like everybody's terrified.
Hmm.
Everybody feels like a fraud.
Yeah.
And once that, it was like, what is this about? And I think the thing that has been empowering to me in my journey is when I stopped thinking of it, like you said, in terms of ownership, and I started thinking it in terms of stewardship.
Hmm.
So it's like, instead of it's something that I own, this is who I am, this is my career, this is all that. It's God gives you this platform or this influence for a season, and you can't hold on to it. And it's
Hmm.
just, it's there for an amount of time. And it's an open-handed approach of like, God, what do you want to do with this while I've got it? Because it's not going to last. It's going to be here for a moment. And, if that moment's 30 years, great. If that moment's 3 years, great. But like, what do
Hmm.
I do with this moment?
mhm,
And when you have that approach, it does become about service and about, I'm here to communicate to a group of people things that I find meaningful.
mhm,
And
Yeah.
then it starts making you wrestle through, it's not just about success, not that there's anything wrong with success, but it's about what's worthy of the investment, and my
Right.
time of my 80 hours a week, majority of the year type thing. So for you, Sonequa, what was that defining moment for you that where you picked it back up?
I was coming up on the end of Discovery, and I was ground into powder. You know what I mean? I was just
Mhm.
so exhausted, and it was an exhaustion that was multi multi years long. It's like
Yeah.
everything had added up over the course of many years. Uh, so I understand now, looking back, that had a lot to do with it too. But it was actually, I'm gonna call her out, but or shout her out really. But it was Andrew Rogers' wife, Eulara, who's a
Wow.
dear friend to me, and I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this to you
She's
before, but she
powerful.
ministered to me and showed me, or helped me see, that this perspective of, oh, I'm done, was from that mindset of ownership.
Wow.
And it was really self oriented, just like other things from the past. It's like
Yep.
you are deciding what you will or won't do with the gifts that he's given you. You have no right.
Wow.
Mhm.
You have
Dang.
no right. He gave it to you to be used, and he gave it to you in a great capacity, so you must use it in a great capacity. And that was a submission and a surrender that that was the first time I had really bent the knee to the Lord.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I had bent the knee in other ways, but it's like I had not bent the knee to that degree in my
Yeah.
career up to that point. And so I had to repent of that and be like, how dare I? Use me however you see fit. Use this gift however you see fit. I will only do what you tell me to do, which we had been operating in that for a while. It's like we only do what he tells us to do, regardless of our own reasoning or human understanding. It's like, if he says yes, we go. If he says no, we don't. Right. But I said, this is what I'm going to do. Now that sounded great in the moment, but then that was immediately tested with
You got to walk it out. Yeah.
exactly, with the very next thing that I did, which was a film that's premiering at South by Southwest that you know about.
I've seen
My
it. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
thank
It's so
you.
good.
My dead friend Zoe, because I didn't want to go there. That's not the choice I would have made for my next thing. It's like I
Mhm.
wanted to be in a pink dress on a comedy, if I had my
Yeah.
own.
Right. Right.
But I was like, oh man, this is so heavy and so important. And like, do I really want to go back to the like to the
Mm.
darkness with this? And like, oh man, but he was very clear, this is next. And I had to, like you said, I had to walk it out and be like, oh, this is really what it means to serve. This is really what it means to serve in your artistry. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like stepping into the fire for the service
Yeah.
of others, in that way, and really taking yourself out of it completely. So it was a blessing to
Yep.
be able to walk it out so quickly after coming to the understanding.
Just both of those things you explained is what makes me so excited about what's next. Here,
Mhm.
at Kingdom, uh, we have a commitment to not our kingdom, but God's kingdom. And so it's not about things that benefit any one of us. It's about, is this a person that knows their craft? Yes. Is this a person that has enough anger to have something to say? Yes.
Mm,
Mm.
And is this a person that has gotten to that place of laying it down and bending the knee
mm,
and then saying, okay, God, what do you want to do with what you've developed in me? And then there's just this raw power that comes out of that moment. And
Mhm.
I think that's when people truly find their voice. And I think you guys are in a season of finding your voice. And for us at Kingdom, like, our desire is like, pour gasoline on that fire. Like,
mm,
uh and whether that involves, something that we're doing together or not. And that's why when you were doing My Dead Friend Zoe, like, you graciously allowed me to see a cut of the film to kind of speak into it a
thank
little
you.
bit. And it's not because I have anything to do with the film or anything to do with the outcome. It's because I believe in your voice.
Mhm,
Like,
Mhm.
I think God's got his hand on you guys. And I think you're just discovering, it's at the tip of the iceberg. My encouragement to the audience listening is, there's a power when, it's amazing the things that you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit.
Hmm.
It's that idea of being able to come around each other, and there is power in community. And I think
Yes.
where we compromise and we lose our voice, um, is when we feel outnumbered and feel like, oh, you know what, my voice doesn't matter. But when you have other believers in your corner being like, no, you absolutely have something to say it.
Yeah.
And it just gives you the confidence to step out in faith. And I think that's what Andrew's wife did for you. I think that's what God's been developing you guys. So I think this next season of whatever God's got for you guys is
Hmm.
gonna be something to behold. So we're excited to watch that.
Oh,
Aw.
well, thank you. And that's the latest example, calling back to what you asked earlier in the conversation about like finding other believers in the industry and what that means. Is you mentioned that Grammy room where those are such intimidating rooms, they're cold rooms, and it's because everybody's thinking about themselves, like what can I get? How can this
Yeah.
person help me get to where I want to be?
Yep.
And when we meet fellow believers, it's the exact opposite. And you just said it. That's something that's been so invaluable to me. And frankly, I wasn't sure was really available, even with people who are believers who may come across. Like it's so easy in this industry to think about yourself, think about what you
Yep.
want,
It
and
is.
not consider, because you look at everybody else, you're like, this is my competition. This is the person I have to
Yep.
beat or run
Yep.
over, and it's like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. That's not Christ. We're all part of one body, and if we work together, we're great parts.
Yeah, and it's cool that it also it keeps us from being, isolated. When we're
Mm,
isolated, I think people can take advantage of us. But my big brother in the industry has been Devon Franklin for years. We're the same
mhm,
age, but he was a few years ahead of me. I know you guys know
Oh, we
Devon as
love
well.
him. That's a dear friend.
Oh, absolutely, and he's had that kind of relationship with a lot of us. But like Devon was one of the first kind of trailblazers in this space, and
Mhm.
and and so he was always a few steps ahead of us as we were getting started, and it was just even as recent as yesterday. We're sharing information behind the scenes about how to set each other up to win with the best deals
Ugh.
and all
mhm,
sorts of stuff. And it's just, and he gets nothing out of that, but it's just because he's a believer and he authentically wants to serve the kingdom of God. And I think when
mhm,
we unite and things like
Mm.
that, like it keeps us from becoming isolated and kind of picked off one by one.
The words that you speak, are full. They're rich. They're like a rumbling fire, and I just, on behalf of both of us, I want to thank you for what you have already poured into us and what you pour into others. Now it makes a lot of sense when you said it's about stewardship, because that's what you're doing, and you have already changed us and impacted us in ways that you don't know. And that's not even to mention how you've impacted the world with just like the freaking high quality stories that you have released to the world. So I just thank
Thanks.
you for who you are and what you've done and what you've already done for us.
Well,
yes,
man, I humbly receive that as from somebody that I deeply respect for both of you guys.
mm,
Like I feel like one of the stewardship things that I've embraced in recent years is, at first when you do this, you just want to do nice things for people, and that's part of it. But uh, you get to a point in your career where your time is valuable, and so I've switched that that mentality that I don't do charity, I do investments.
mm,
And
Mm.
and investments are about people that, it's not an investment of what they're gonna do for me, it's what they're gonna do for the kingdom of God.
mhm,
And and so people that are worth the time, that have quality, that have definitely the anointing on them, that God's gonna do something special through them, and if you get to play a part, it's an investment. You make that deposit, and you let God do what he wants to with it. So for you guys, it's in no ways charity, it's investment because you guys are both quality.
yeah. Thank
And
you,
so
thank you.
it's worth the time. So as we finish up, we just a couple of fun things to take to make sure we keep all of our egos in check, especially after the wonderful compliments that you've paid. Um, I always love to kind of come back to like that. This makes people human, is we've all had moments in our career where we've had an embarrassing moment, and
Oh yeah.
I was wondering, just a moment in your career where something happened where it kind of brought you down a notch, and it just so I'll start off just so that I'm leading with my weakness. So mine involves one of your castmates, Sonequa, LeBron James.
Okay.
So back in the day, I know you did Space Jam with
Yes.
LeBron.
Yes.
So LeBron James, king of basketball. And it goes back to your basketball roots, Kenric. But I was a cameraman for ESPN back in the day, and so that was
Oh.
my day job. I did that for about 10 years while I was trying to get this hobby off the ground. And
Wow.
so LeBron James was his second year in the league, I think, and he was in Cleveland, and they were in the playoffs it was against Detroit, and it was against the Pistons. It was in Cleveland, and I was running one of the cameras for the playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And during the playoffs, they had extra cameras they never really didn't have. So I was this foul line extended handheld, sitting on the ground, even with the foul line, right on the out of bounds marker. And LeBron spots up for a three, and he's a young player. He's just started, spots up for a three in front of me, and I get this sweet shot of it, the ball going in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he makes it, he drains it. He decides to showboat by backpedaling wide out of bounds, and he's coming right at me. And I'm like, oh crap! So I put my hand out to try to catch him.
Oh.
He hits me, flips in the air, and lands face down on the court, and doesn't move. And I'm like, and he did, like, this is the longest 10 seconds of my life. I'm like,
no.
I just killed the king of basketball.
No.
I'm going to be that guy in all of history that's known that robbed the world of the next Michael Jordan.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and then he finally gets up, and when he gets up, he's holding his wrist, and he shoots me a look that wasn't too happy. And I'm like, and then security yanked me out, and the Cleveland fans were booing.
Oh.
And then fast forward a few years later, I did a game in Miami that, every once in a while I go back and I just do a game just to kind of go out and see a basketball game. And I was doing a game in Miami, and I was having to do the pregame interview, and I was the cameraman. And so I'm having to mic him, and I'm running the mic up through his jersey, and the whole time I'm like, please don't recognize me. Please don't recognize me.
Oh my God.
So that was, but to my credit, it motivated him enough for that game in Cleveland, and they came back and they won the game. So I think I made him mad enough to win. But that was one of those like 10 seconds of eternity. So like, for you guys in your career, was there a moment where it like this made you human?
Oh man.
Okay, so I have an audition story, but I'm trying to figure out whether I should tell the audition story or a different one. But basically, I was at Warner Brothers in New York, and I was auditioning for a TV show, and I had just gotten to New York, so I was so green. And I decided that I wasn't going to have my sides in my hands because, I was off book, and I felt good about that. And I wasn't even going to have them in my hands. And I get in that room, and and the head of casting is there, and the reader's there, and everything. And I think it was even a callback or something. And I went blank and had to ask the reader for my line, like, in this callback. And it
Oh my
took me so
gosh.
long because I just, like, tried to find it, and then I just had to be like, "Line?"
Line. And then by that point, you're sweating, and it's so thrown you off your game that you never quite recover from
I
it.
never quite recovered from it. I had to be healed of that because it was
Oh man.
terrible. Like, and I learned from then on. I was like, have your size in your hand. I don't care how off, but have them in your
That's
back pocket or something. Like, don't just go
that's
without them.
amazing.
Oh gosh,
That's amazing. I
that's for
love it.
later.
That makes me love you that much more. That just makes you human. What they healed from it also. I think there's something, and it goes back to what you said, Sonequa, about that chip on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you get punched in the mouth in this business, some people crumble, and other people, it ticks you off enough to be like, no, I'm not going to accept that defining me.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And I'm going to, and so like, thank God for somebody like that. Cause every day you go out and be like, no, I'm going to prove that I can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And and I had an old director back in the day when I was a cameraman that told me that. He's like, "How'd you think you did in this particular game?" And he was like the A director, and I said, I did average. He's like, "That's right. I just don't work with average people."
Mm.
And so I worked for 2 years to get another audition for him, just to go back and do one game to be able to say, "No, I'm not average,"
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to work really hard to earn it again. And so, like, there's a part of that motivates. And so, to me, the fact that you guys double down and prove that being from Alabama, that you're not what people expect, that prove that that you absolutely can do it better and better and better. That's I think there's something really motivating that separates strong people in this career and not. So that's encouraging to my heart for sure, because
Thank
I feel a little less lonely now.
That's right.
But
you.
but for both of you guys, thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna avoid the question that I was so tempted to go to of Star Trek versus Star Wars. I don't want to
Oh
put you
boy.
guys out there and get you in trouble.
Ooh,
So
them
although the look
fighting
at
words.
I know.
but guys, I just absolutely feel like whatever is next for both of you is going to be a game changer. And so we're in it with you guys. We're in your corner. We love you both, and we're excited to have people that believe what we believe and are as talented as you guys are. So really appreciate you being on the Storytellers today and sharing your story.
Thank you
Oh
so
man,
much
thank you
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
We
We love
love
you
you.
too.
We really do love you.
I want to thank my guests, Kenric and Sonequa. Just what a fantastic, amazing, powerful couple they are. Just each of them in their own individual rights. For both Kenric and Sonequa, I think the thing that it really speaks to me about is the idea that they talked about of service, of being willing to lay down ownership of this business or my career or my following or my films are all about me. Laying that down, and then when you pick it back up, it's out of an idea of service. Serving an audience, yes. Serving stories that are important, yes. But ultimately serving God in the place that he places you, the place that he plants you, the place that he kind of calls you to. Having an open hand of, God, what kind of stories do you want me to tell, and how do I communicate that to an audience? And I think when an artist, whether it's an actor or a producer or director or an author or a musician, when a storyteller finds a purpose like that, an idea of doing it out of service, there's just a powerful thing that happens, and the stories get better and better. So stay tuned with these guys, because there is incredible things in their future. I want to thank them for being on the show. So that's our show today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of The Storytellers.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey. Our executive producers are Kevin Downs and Brandon Gregory. Social media for the show is run by the team at Troops and Allies, and our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Profit. Special thanks to Jaron Weatherly, Evan Johnston, and our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. We have so many exciting guests coming up this season. To ensure you don't miss any of them, subscribe to The Storytellers for free on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at KingdomStoryCompany.com and follow us at Kingdom Story Company across all platforms. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.